Alrighty, how's it going, Rangers and overall hockey fans? Thank you guys all so much for chiming in for the latest episode of Rangers Review. Myself, Wardy, that you guys know, especially here on YouTube at the Rangers Review YouTube channel, or where many of you know me covering the New York Mets at Wardy NYM on YouTube as well. And that is Statboy Steven, the biggest stat guru you will ever meet. Oh my goodness, why am I hearing an echo? Okay. My apologies. I was hearing an echo because for whatever reason the YouTube tab was open as if we were watching the show itself. So that's why that happened. So apologies for the audio viewers, but no less, we got Statboy Steven over here, the biggest stats guru that you'll ever meet regarding all things New York Rangers. And in today's episode, we're going to be going over the past 4 games for NYR, games 46 to 49 to be exact, leading up to the now All-Star break that we are recording at. It is February 3rd, this Friday. So we have planned to get into a lot of discuss. We'll also be breaking down Steven's latest hockey trip, this time to Seattle to see the Kraken in person. Want to hear a lot about that and the more, getting into what is next for the Rangers for this post All-Star break, for the remainder of the schedule. What are the next week of games coming up for them? When will we record next, more than likely, and plenty more. But before we get into it all, shout out everyone here in the live show or listening wherever you get your audio podcast. Really appreciate you guys. But more than anything, Steven, how are you doing today, my friend?
Yeah, good. Still recovering slightly from the jet lag. Like you said, my last week in the United States, I spent in Seattle. So that's an 8-hour time difference with Dublin.
That's crazy.
So it's pretty much, so it's almost lunchtime for, if I was still in Seattle. No, but doing well. Got home to a crazy surprise, and I'm getting married in May. People started sending stuff for the wedding registry already, so
Awesome.
I have like some massive boxes to unpack, and of course my suitcase with all the souvenirs we ended up with. We got a gnome at one of the Silver Tips game, which is one of the junior teams we went to. We got a Seattle Thunderbirds bobblehead. So yeah, a lot of unpacking to do, but yeah, I have a long weekend ahead because next Monday is a bank holiday here in Ireland, so all good.
Bank holiday. Every time I hear that from either someone like yourself or people that I know that live in the UK, I'm always like startled. I'm like, bank holiday. What does that mean? But I just know it just means the banks are closed that day, right? So it just
Maybe not even. I don't know, but
okay, because that's what I've heard.
I think they started calling it a bank holiday because the banks are closed, or maybe it's because you bank the holiday when it's on the weekend and then you use it during the week, because it's always like a day it's always like a Monday or a Friday, and it always seems to celebrate something that happens over the weekend. So who knows? But yeah, no, I have a 3-day weekend ahead of me, so yeah, let's get into it.
Let's get into it indeed, because last time that we spoke, and in hindsight, it's actually good that we took like an extra week off. We were originally looking to record last week before the Vegas game happened. However, if we did that, then we would have only recapped one game and then we had the All-Star break. So in hindsight, looking back, it's actually better that we did it this way during the break itself, because the past 3 games of the 4 for the Rangers, we did a prediction like we always do every week. Steven said the Rangers would go 1-1-1 during that span. I said the Rangers would go 2-1, and
What did
Steven
they do?
ended up being correct at 1-1-1, as unfortunate as it is to say. So Steven continues to be the champ of our predictions throughout the weeks. Hopefully, things will change starting today's episode. But starting with the predictions, let's talk about what was an abysmal game for the Rangers in a lot of ways. Can't say I'm too surprised, because we all know the Big Bad Bruins are bad in a good way. They're really, really good, but they were full-fledged on full display in that matchup just a week or so ago against the Rangers. Winning 3-1 on January 19th was the final score in the first period. Pavel Zacha, who's been a really nice acquisition for them in that Eric Holla trade entering the year with the Devils, he gets his 8th of the year, assisted by David Krejci, who's been awesome coming back from Czech to return for another year with Boston, the veteran centerman. Then we get to the second period, talking about veteran centers. Yes, Patrice Bergeron, one of the best in the game, continues to be just that. Gets his 17th goal of the year, assisted by Marchand and Smith. So the Rangers are already down 2-0. They were getting, a decent amount of shots on goal. They outshot the Bruins in this game 32-27. But I mean, they ran into a Swayman that just looked absolutely phenomenal, and they just couldn't get off the proper shots. There were a couple opportunities where the Rangers also got absolutely robbed, if I do recall correctly from this game. So just having to tip the cap at the same time when you face a hot goaltender, which was Swayman. But we get to the third. Connor Clifton scores his fourth goal of the year, assisted by Marchand and Krejci. And then Ben Harper, before the game ends, he snaps that what would have been a shutout with his first goal as a Ranger, which ultimately leads shortly after to an extension, which is kind of funny, assisted by Lafreniere and Schneider. So the final score is 3-1 in that game. I really don't think there's much more that needs to be said on it. Swayman was really, really good, saving 31 of 32 shots. And net for the Rangers was Igor, who won 24-27. Again, not a great game for the Rangers by any stretch there, but unfortunately, this is what a lot of better teams this year have faced in the Boston Bruins, who have just been pretty much unstoppable for the most part this season. And we'll see if that ends up changing drastically at all as we get into the latter half of this 2022-2023 year. So with that being said, Steven, let's get into positives, which was the Rangers' next game.
Well, I think you ended with a positive there. Ben Harper scoring his first.
That is true. It is electric.
Scored before Sammy Blais did as a Ranger, so there's that.
And Igor almost did too during this stretch.
Yeah, he's getting close. He's getting there. But following game, of course, Rangers at home take on the Florida Panthers, which, if this was last season, probably would have been a harder game for the Rangers. The Panthers are just not the team they were expected to be this season. First period, goals by Adam Fox and Mika Zibanejad on the power play. Panarin assisting on both, and then Zibanejad and Fox being the secondary assist on each other's goals. VZ with his 8th of the season in the second period from Gaudreau and Trocheck. And then the third period is when the kids were released. Lafreniere made a 4-1 with his 6th, assisted by Kako and Hedl. And then Zibanejad from Panarin and Fox. So it basically, like, 3 goals were from the big 3, Panarin, Fox, Zibanejad. And then the empty net goal by Hedl, assisted by Kako and Lafreniere. So the kid line got 2 goals where all 3 of them were involved. Barkov and Verhaeghe had the goals for the Florida Panthers, but a 6-2 win, pretty easy. Looking at the scoreline, early on, the Rangers got an early lead, so it was never really in doubt there. And by scoring an empty net goal, Filip Hedl became the youngest Ranger ever to score at least 3 empty net goals in a single season.
Yeah, were you the one that pointed out that stat on Twitter? Did you?
I tweeted it on. It must have been right after the game.
I was cracking up. Yeah, I saw that. Yeah,
and it is something to call out because it may sound insignificant, but it shows that when the team is defending a lead late, a guy like Hedl is now trusted to be out there.
Yeah.
The previous 2 were on the power play, though.
That's true. And overall, the offense was just electric in this game. I mean, when you look at total points around, Panarin with 3 points, including 3 assists, Lafreniere with I had to sneeze. Lafreniere with 1 goal, 1 assist, which is awesome to see for his development. Trocheck with an assist. Gaudreau with an assist. Kako with 2 assists. We love that for Kako. Jimmy Vesey with a goal. Hedl with a goal and assist. And Mika Zibanejad with 2 goals and 1 assist. And it's funny because when Mika scored on the power play, his first goal, I didn't even have to look. I wasn't in the room. I walked away for a minute, and I just looked. My mom was like yelling, "Oh, Mika scored on the power play." I'm like, "Let me guess, left dot." Yeah, of course it is. What else is it? He's the Ovechkin for the Rangers in a lot of ways.
But it was high time that the first power play unit was getting a goal there, because prior to that goal on the power play, the first unit went 1 for 26 on the power play, by the way.
Yeah. Yep.
Dating back all the way to January 1st. So that tells you that first power play unit was cold as ice. The second unit, I think the second unit this year has 4 power play goals. The first unit now has 2, both as Zibanejad. So hopefully that power play goal there by Zibanejad against the Florida Panthers ignites something for the power play.
And, talking about igniting, even though that the next game wouldn't go in the Rangers' favor, and it was a frustrating one, albeit, we've spoken glowingly a lot of Filip Hedl this season, And this was just another phenomenal stretch by him.
Yeah.
Empty net goals aside, let's not forget, just a couple weeks ago, he was benched for like the entire third period, then got
Mhm.
an empty net goal, and he wanted nothing to do with it, rightfully so. But Hedel now is at a point where he's easily going to get 20 goals this
Yeah.
season. It's just a matter on if it's going to be 25 before we get into this
Yeah.
matchup, unfortunately losing to the Maple Leafs.
Yes, at even strength, Zibanejad only has 2 more points than Hedel, but he played 8 more games.
Yeah. Yeah, that's exciting because when the Rangers originally drafted Hedel back in the 2017 draft, he was someone where you looked at the same way that you're looking at for the Rangers' most recent draft pick from the Czech league as well. Why am I blanking on the young man's name who signed the ELC with the Rangers?
Are you talking about Sikora from Slovakia?
Yeah, Slovakia, not Czech. I'm thinking Czech because of Hedel, obviously. So
Yeah.
when Hedel was in the Czech league, the men's league, we were like, okay, he doesn't have much production, but he's also a teenager. So this is great to see him already playing with men. And it's
Yeah.
taken a while, but it feels like Hedel is only still 21. He's still very young. We know that. And yet he's one of the longest tenured Rangers already.
Yeah.
And you can tell
Third longest tenured Ranger, and he's only 23.
it's absurd. And you could tell that after that great playoff last year that he really was able to take a new step in his game. And it's
Mhm.
great to see it unfolding because Hedel
Yeah.
deserves it. I mean, he's looking more and more than just that initial flash in the pan player where you saw
Yeah.
him go on a great stretch for a couple games, get hurt, and just look derailed for the remainder of the year. No, Hedel has been pretty consistent all season long. And as we get into this matchup on January 25th, unfortunately losing to the Maple Leafs in Toronto, it starts with Pontus Holmberg's 5th goal of the year. Assisted by Anderson and Kerfoot. Then we get to the second period, and this was Hedel period, is what it was. Philip Hedel with an unassisted goal, his 14th of the year.
Talk a little bit about how that goal happened.
I'll let you break it down, Steven, because you seem more excited than I do with it.
When you get a face off in the opponent's zone with like a second to go.
This is what you do in the video games, not what you do in real life.
Exactly, and it never works. You can never score straight off the face off, but Hedel actually did, and it was so fun to see a goal that people are always talking about could happen. Like, oh, there's still 2 seconds left. It never happens when you're down a goal with only 2 seconds left, straight off the face off dot, right?
Yeah.
But Hedel did it now against the Toronto Maple Leafs, tied it up in the second period. I'll let you take it off from
yeah, no, it was awesome. So ties it up there, and then not long after, he gets his second goal of the game, his 15th of the year, this time assisted by Kakko and Lafreniere. The Rangers looking nice heading into the third period, getting that 2-1 lead. However, as we get into the third period, when only 5 minutes to play, Timothy Liljegren scores his 4th goal of the year, assisted by Tavares and Nylander to make it a tied hockey game. That leads us into overtime, in which unfortunately the Rangers lose thanks to Mitch Marner netting his 18th goal of the year. This was a game that the Rangers allowed to slip away, unfortunately. I get it. It was only a 1-goal lead. It's not like it was a 2-3 goal lead that they've just absolutely let blown away like they have in the past. But this was a frustrating one. And it's funny, correct me if I'm wrong, Steven, but it feels like almost every time the Rangers go to Toronto, they have a tight game like this. They go to overtime. I don't know about you, but the one game that always stands out in my mind for whatever reason, I don't even remember what year it was, had to been at least 2-3 years ago, was when the Rangers ended up in Toronto. They went to overtime, and if I'm not mistaken, Tony DeAngelo scored the overtime winner, or he at least scored 1 goal in that game. Do you remember that game?
Yeah. Look, the games against the Maple Leafs, I'm sure the Maple Leafs are happy they don't have to face Georgiev anymore.
Yeah, that's a good point.
Because Georgiev was always lights out against
He was their kryptonite.
But look, I also remember a game a couple of years ago where the Maple Leafs, I think they were up 5-1. And for some reason, I didn't turn off my TV, even though it was like 2 a.m. They came back. It was 5-5, I think. And then the Maple Leafs still won that game 8-5. I could be off like a goal or go here or there, but it was the games with the Maple Leafs the last 5-6 years have always been great. Great contests, could go either way. And yeah, the Rangers have won a couple of them, but unfortunately this time it wasn't meant to be. And the reason I feel bad is because Will Cooley made his NHL debut in Toronto, being born in Toronto. So I was really hoping to get the win for him. But yeah, it was just nice to see Will Cooley actually getting time in the NHL.
Yeah.
because before we move on to the fourth game, Sammy Blay was sent down on a conditioning loan and then replaced with Will Cooley, who now played 2 games. Got a fighting major in this game next. We're going to analyze. So
And a good fight indeed too. It was a nice scrap.
with Keegan Colasar, yeah,
Yeah.
interesting fight for him. So happy to see him get a shot. Now we just need Brennan Hoffman to finish his season so he can get a shot too.
That's a great
But yeah,
point.
that fourth game was against the Vegas Golden Knights on Friday. My niece was in attendance. It was her second ever game in attendance. So glad to see that the Rangers got another win for her.
How old is your niece again?
She's turning 3 in April.
Okay. So she probably won't remember much when she gets older, but she might get those little flashes. You never know.
But there's a lot of videos and photos, and the first game she went to last year on her birthday, on her second birthday, was against the Red Wings, where Lafreniere scored that highlight reel goal. Remember that one?
Yes, that was that was such a good goal. Yeah.
Yeah. So for her birthday, we got the goal puck from the first goal of that game that we framed for her and put it on the wall. So she'll have a little memento of her first ever Ranger game.
That's cool.
And in this one, she got a little giveaway, like the little fanny pack, because it was Pride Month. They had like the colorful Rangers logo on the front, which she loves. I don't think she goes anywhere without it now. But yeah, two games, 2 wins, like 8 goals for, 1 against. So yeah, she's a good luck charm for now. Yeah, regarding the scoring, Kreider and Trocheck in the first, and then Hedel and Vesey in the third, with Kessel scoring the only Golden Knights goal in the second. Hedel being a point per game in 2023, by the way, 12 points in 12 games.
Kind of a big deal.
I wanted to call that out. 2 seconds into the second period, Cooley and Colasar get into a fight, of course, as we just discussed. But yeah, this was a good game for the Rangers, 4-1 win. I was in Seattle at the Kraken game, like at the Climate Pledge Arena for the Kraken game that same night. So I was watching the end of the game while gearing up for warmups, which is a weird experience, but I got to see most of it at least. And of course, yeah, this game was overshadowed by all the talk around the warmups and the Rangers not doing their special warm-up jerseys for charity and this and that. I don't want to get too much into it, but the only thing I'll say about this, regardless of what kind of night it is, these jerseys, to me, it matters a lot because they're getting auctioned off and the proceeds always go to a charity. So I'm kind of annoyed that a charity lost out on the money now.
See, that's a fair point. Like everyone's entitled to their opinions regarding this.
Yeah.
I felt that it was getting. I felt like it was more of a talk piece, especially because it was the final game until post All-Star break. So now
we have 2 weeks. Yeah, like a week and a half to just talk about this now. Unfortunately,
exactly, and of course, God forbid, it's something not too positive per se. It's going to drag. But to your point, especially for someone like you, I completely understand where you're coming from because you no pun intended, pride yourself on acquiring a variety of jerseys based on different events that go on at the Garden.
Yeah.
I mean, if your backdrop isn't a great example of that, I don't know what is. Oh, you think you just got a Greg McKegg jersey because Greg McKegg's your favorite player? No, it goes in hand with the event, which is really cool. And remind me.
So just like the Greg McKegg jersey is the Essential Workers Night they had in one of the first, I think it was the first home game of 2021-22. Then a Rick Nash Hockey Fights Cancer jersey and a Ryan Strome Black History Month jersey. I have a couple more. I have like a Women Empowerment jersey. I have a Military Appreciation Night jersey of Kako. But yeah, for me as a collector, that's the other reason I was kind of annoyed because I really wanted to contribute by bidding on one of these jerseys, and they have sticks with like special tape normally. So to me, that was the big issue. And like I said, without getting into what kind of night it is, I really don't care about it being Pride Night or Military Appreciation Night or Essential Workers Night or Garden of Dreams Night. They have all these themed nights throughout the year where the proceeds benefit a charity of their choosing, and it annoys me that a charity is now missing out on that money. That's my biggest issue with all this. And like you said, everyone's entitled to their opinion, and this is going to be a debate moving forward because there's going to be Pride Night next season, And if they're going to wear the jerseys, then people are going to go, why didn't you wear them last year? So this is always going to overshadow the actual event, which is going to be annoying. But
It's always going to be, especially in hockey. It seemed pretty obvious that the Rangers did what they did to avoid potential bad PR in any way, given what you saw with Provorov.
mhm,
Whether that means that any Rangers were opposed of wearing the jersey or not, we're never going to know. But because it leads fans to assumptions and just kind of being like, why aren't you wearing them in the first place? Either way, it's going to come off bad PR. It just depends
yeah,
on who you're talking to.
yeah,
Really, it's all
and then
everyone's
and then
personal. You're not. It's a lose-lose situation if you're the
yeah,
Rangers. Let me put it
and
that
then
way.
the Rangers saying no comment just fuels that that speculation of was there a player who didn't want to wear it? I don't want to get into that. I don't want to.
I
I
don't,
don't
but
want
there are
to.
a lot of people that love to get
There
into
are,
that, and that's
there
the
are,
worst
yeah,
part of it.
and it
There's a
has
lot
been a
of toxic people
a
out there
heated
that just
topic.
want to try to jump on someone without even knowing anything.
Yeah, and it has been a heated topic, unfortunately. But yeah, hopefully they take something away from this. There's still some theme nights coming up. There will be like a Garden of Dreams night. I'm sure they'll have a Black History Month night again because it's February.
That's true.
Um,
Yeah, I'd imagine that they will, right?
I
They
think
usually
I
do
think
that every year.
I think there's a law enforcement appreciation night when they
Oh,
pay the
like
Kings at the end of the month.
FTNY type stuff.
Yeah, I think so.
Yeah,
Or NYPD. Of course, they always have the NYPD FDNY games at Madison Square Garden.
yeah,
So these themed nights are great for a multitude of reasons. And I wish people could just, appreciate what they like and then just shut up if they don't. You know,
yeah.
if you don't want to
If
see
it's not their
military,
way, it's the highway, Steven. Don't you
yeah,
know?
if military stuff is not your thing, then okay, then just don't
Don't give
go
a shit.
online and complain
Yeah,
about it.
yeah. Mind
Just
your
let people
business.
enjoy it. Like Hockey
Yeah,
Fights Cancer Night. If you don't care, if you think the jerseys are ugly and disgusting, okay, that's fine. Just
stay in
watch
your lane.
some betting show on MSG before the game starts.
Yeah.
Because if there's one thing we have an abundance of on TV, it's betting shows.
And none of them are
Unbelievable.
good, unfortunately. The ones that
No,
I've seen, at least.
no. But look, we'll see what happens moving forward. But it was a good game by the Rangers. A 4-1 win over the Golden Knights. Golden Knights were a good team, by the way.
They are
And
a good
they're
team, but
going
they're
head to head with the
suffering
Seattle
now.
Kraken for the division, Pacific Division in the West. How cool is this, though? We have two expansion teams, and they're already doing well. The Golden Knights made it to the Stanley Cup final in year one. The Kraken now in year two having a really good season.
Yeah, Seattle's
Um,
really,
yeah,
really shocked me.
and the
And I know
Kraken
I know
did.
you got a lot to say on them, so I'm gonna let you
Yeah.
take it away in a minute. Before we do, I just want to also make a note how Vegas, their biggest issue, we've kind of seen it for a while, but like Mark Stone, who's a phenomenal player, now out indefinitely with another back surgery. They're just a team that it looks like they honestly peaked early with Gallant. They really were riding high on just that new franchise in town and everyone getting on board with them, had younger talent, but these guys are aging. When you look at Vegas, they're not a terribly young team. They give up too much of their young assets, in my opinion, as well.
Mhm.
Just the fact alone that they had Nick Suzuki, traded him away for Max Pacioretty, just to a couple years later salary dump Max Pacioretty, and Patches himself, who is still a great goal scorer, unfortunately just older, dealing with ailments. That's why he's out for the year again. I think he ruptured his same Achilles that he was out for the
Yeah,
past year, which
yeah.
sucks. Feel bad
And
for him there. But
that's not even the worst trade they made with the Montreal Canadiens.
wait, don't tell me. Let me think. What was worse than that? Oh, was it the Tomas Tatar deal?
A first, a second, and a third for Thomas Tatar. Yeah.
What did that end up turning into? Do you recall?
No, I'd have to look that up, but
Okay.
it's a huge overpay. And in this regard, that first year making it all the way to the final probably hurt them more than it benefited them
Yep.
because it raised expectations. The way the Seattle Kraken have done it, the Seattle Kraken didn't exploit the advantages of the expansion draft.
Not
They
at
could
all. I mean, they
they could
had Tarasenko among many other solid players
yeah.
available.
They could have had Tarasenko. They could have had Carey Price. They could have had a multitude of valuable players that they could have then traded away for picks or prospects like the Vegas Golden Knights did. But the Winter Classic next year is going to be in Seattle. at the it's called T-Mobile Park now, where the Seattle Mariners play against the Golden Knights. And I'll say this, I already knew this because I've been to Seattle before, but Seattle really embraced the Kraken. And when I say Seattle has a hockey market and a hockey culture, it's because they've always had one.
Yep.
You have the Seattle Thunderbirds just south in Kent, the Everett Silvertips, you have the Spokane Chiefs, and the Tri-City Americans who play in Kennewick. The Portland Winterhawks, just down in Oregon, just a few hours south. That's major junior hockey, like 5 teams in just a couple of hours drive from the city of Seattle. And we went to Seattle practice facility, the Iceplex. They have a wall with the history of Seattle, and they have a Seattle Metropolitans jersey, like an actual jersey, like an old one. They have like images of the Seattle totems, and they have a reverse retro jersey. And people go, yeah, they've only been in the league for a year. Why do they have a reverse retro? Because there's a history there in Seattle that goes back all the way to the Metropolitans being the first American team to win the Stanley Cup. That goes back to teams in the 1920s, 30s, and 40s. There was a Seattle Seahawks hockey team. The Seattle Totems. There's a very rich history. If the NHL plays this right and they touch on that history for the Winter Classic, that's going to be a great experience. And going to that arena myself, I was there when it was still the Key Arena where the Supersonics played. They basically dug it out, so the ice level is underground, basically. Yep. Which is really cool because since it's in a park right next to the Space Needle, the arena doesn't really overshadow everything around it. So it's a really cool design that they have, and it was just a fun experience there. The food was good, it was expensive, but like Madison Square Garden expensive. But yeah, it was a fun experience, and of course we went to the game in Columbus. Columbus was cheap, by the way. Two large beers, chicken tenders, and fries for $26.
That's what happens when you're not in a big city, the way that you'll get Seattle, New York. And 2, I mean, even when you look at the type of team that they are, the funding that they get, like they're just more of like that hometown. Like how much of a fan base does Columbus have outside of Columbus? You know what I mean?
It's
So, and that's the benefit of when you go to away games like that. When you go to those somewhat smaller towns, smaller cities, smaller areas, that's
and I just love to see and experience those other arenas. In Columbus, we sat right next to the cannon, so I wanted the Columbus Blue Jackets to score at least once because I wanted to hear the cannon during the game, which they did. We still got the win, but just to experience the different arenas, the different fan bases, and just to interact with people, not just the people the fans that go to the game, but talk to the people that work there and just ask them what it's like. And so I got to add 2 new arenas to the trip this time around. But the Seattle Kraken Climate Pledge Arena, it's a terrible name for an arena, but that's the only bad thing about it.
I agree, it is a terrible name for it. Not putting like the cause and everything aside, just a bad name for the arena in general.
It's still better than a sponsorship name, though.
It is better than it's better than like crypto.
It's better than crypto center. Is it crypto center in LA now?
Yeah, it's just crypto something. Because that's what Staples Center is. Yeah.
Yeah, it used to be Staples Center. Like, oh, let's go to Staples. Imagine you just want to buy a printer, right?
Yeah.
And you go onto Google and you enter Staples, and it says Staples Center. You go, ooh, that looks like a big store. Let's go there.
Yep.
But yeah, MSG is still the only arena in the NHL that doesn't. Well, now Seattle as well. That doesn't have a sponsored name.
Speaking of which, I will be at the Garden tomorrow for my first ever New York Knicks game, so that will be a lot of fun. It's going to be weird. I think it's going to be very weird walking in there and expecting there to be an ice rink, and it's not. I've never been there for anything else. I haven't been there for a concert before or anything like that, so it's going to take some getting used to. It always baffles me the fact that the ice is somehow under those wood panels and how quick they are to change things up. You know what I mean?
Yeah. I know they'll never do this, but what I want to do once in my life at least is to be in the arena as they do the changeover.
Yeah, just see how it works. Yeah.
Exactly. But I know it's like a 2-hour process, and they don't want fans in the stands because they have to clean the stands, etc., etc. Just sell me a double ticket.
Yeah.
Put me on one of the booths in between games. And just let me, or put me on the Chase Bridge. I don't care. I would just want to observe how they change it from a basketball court to an ice rink, or the other way around. And it's not just MSG that does it. Most arenas, almost every arena in the NHL is a multi-purpose arena, and most arenas shared with an NBA team.
Yeah. No, that's true. And I've been loving this conversation, but I do want to steer a little bit more back to the Rangers here before we get to a couple comments, because there are some good comments. There's one specific question I really want
Okay.
to get onto
Okay.
with you before we get out of here.
One more thing before we move on, though.
Yeah.
If MSG would have a sponsor name, what would it be?
What would it be, or what should it be?
No. What would? Let's say 5 years ago, the MSG decided to go with a sponsor name. What would they have gone with?
So, like how TD Garden is, for example,
Exactly.
it would be Chase.
Chase
100%.
Garden. Yeah.
Chase Garden.
Yeah, Chase Garden makes the most sense, right?
And while it would bother me, I would live with it, just because I always think of Chase when I think of the Rangers and Knicks. They've been paired for so long.
That's a really good point. Chase has always been part of MSG anyway.
Yep.
You have the Chase Bank in front of it. You have the Chase Bridge. Everything is geared towards Chase being that first ever sponsor for MSG. But it's like in Columbus. Everything in Columbus is nationwide.
Yeah.
For some reason.
That's too much of a mouthful as is to say. Chase
Yeah, but
is quick hitter to the point.
But it's nationwide arena. It's nationwide arena on Nationwide Boulevard, right across the street from the Nationwide building. So I think,
and you have to park in the Nationwide parking lot.
Probably like nationwide parking. But yeah, Chase Garden. That's what I had in mind too. Chase Garden. I don't want it to happen, but if it has to happen, then Chase Garden is probably the lesser of all evils.
Yes.
Yeah.
I tend to agree with you there. But okay, so we're talking right now. Ranger hockey has not been happening lately. Why? Because we're in the All-Star break, Steven. Do you have any remarks that you'd like to share on the All-Star break? We know that at the time of recording this, February 3rd, the skills competition, I believe, is tonight. Then the All-Star games, whatever you want to call it, is this weekend. Is there anything that you're looking forward to? I know that you and I are more on the pessimistic side with the All-Star front. Don't enjoy it as much as we used to. But for the Rangers that are representing, at least, like, is there anything that's,
I wouldn't say I'm pessimistic. I just don't give a shit.
Yeah, I think that's kind of what I meant to say. Like, I don't hate it. I don't care. Like, when I was a kid, I loved it. I cared a lot.
If I'm home and there's nothing else on TV and I cannot sleep, I'll turn it on.
Yeah.
But it's not something I'll stay home for. If I can go out for drinks tomorrow or watch the All-Star game, I'll go out for drinks. That said, I love the All-Star jerseys this year. I love that they embraced the reverse retro aspect with the All-Star jerseys. They went with the 1994 jersey design in Miami Vice colors. And I think that's really cool.
Yeah, that is. Their jerseys are so much better than what they've been in years past. I haven't liked an All-Star jersey, I don't think, since when was it? 2011, 2012, when it was Hank, Girardi.
Yeah.
Those red and blue jerseys were phenomenal.
2011, 2012. My fiance has the white Lundqvist jersey. I have the blue Gaborik one.
They're both so nice.
I'd say that's the last time the All-Star jerseys were worth buying.
And I'll never forget that game specifically, how you could tell bothered Hank was getting from Gabby scoring on him.
Oh yeah. The celebration, because he did the AK-47 celebration that Anisimov.
Oh yeah, he did like the Anisimov or the Solani. That's what he did on him. That was fun. Yeah, that's a good point.
Oh man, this just brings me back to the Winter Classic, Road to the Winter Classic show on HBO.
Yes. Yep. Yeah. That was good.
Which always, like, when I start talking about that, I just get upset that the NHL doesn't have any original content.
I know we've harped on this many times.
It's just games. It's just games. How are you going to grow your audience by just showing games? You need more, man. You need you need something for people to watch to get into it. But anyway,
documentaries, mini doc series change everything. I mean, they're one still to this day one of my favorite, if not my favorite, then one of my favorite. And it's actually funny that I'm saying this because I know ESPN is running all Michael Jordan stuff today because it's 2/3/2023. They're purposely doing that. But the Last Dance documentary that's on Netflix,
I
Michael
watched it
Jordan,
3 times.
it's
Yeah,
it's phenomenal. Like even if one, you're not a big basketball fan, which I know you're not, Steven, or
doesn't
two,
matter. But
it
listen, I
doesn't
grew up in
matter.
Europe.
It's so well put
I,
together, and it really
I
gives you
grew
an
up in the
idea
90s.
of
I grew up in the 90s. Jordan was so big that it was a thing over here.
yeah, exactly. Yeah. And where were you living in the 90s? Were you in
Uh,
Africa then?
I was in the Netherlands. I lived in the Netherlands.
Okay, so
Nobody
you were in the
watches
Netherlands
basketball
then.
in the Netherlands. No, nobody gives a shit about basketball.
Yep.
My mom knows who Michael Jordan is, and she's never watched a basketball game in her life.
Yep. It's just one of those things, you
Yeah.
know? But yeah,
My
that
mom did take me to the cinema to see Space Jam, though.
I actually should. That sounds like a good mother, if you ask me.
Yes, yes.
Not that new Space Jam bullshit with LeBron. Nice try though.
Oh no.
Okay. Again, getting off topic here.
Yeah.
Anyway, so we talked about the All-Star break there. Again, we're just looking forward to Rangers hockey. Speaking of which, let's look at the upcoming schedule before we get to any prospect updates that you might have to share. Speaking of prospects, one thing I do want to add is, again, I was excited to see Will Cooley. I hope that he gets some more reps in when the Rangers are back from the All-Star break here. We saw Sammy Blais. I think Sammy Blais actually scored when he was brought down to the Wolfpack, which is funny. Hasn't scored with the Rangers, but he did score shortly after being sent down.
I'm gonna say something about Sammy Blais here. Look, a lot of people think that I don't like Sammy Blais because I complain about him all the fucking time, and I get that. But it's not that I don't like Sammy Blais. It's not that I want Sammy Blais to be in the AHL because he sucks. I want Sammy Blais to play in the AHL because he doesn't face the same kind of pressure and power that players have that he does in the NHL, and he's still recovering from an injury.
Yeah, he
Going
hasn't
down,
been the same. He does not look at
no,
all like what he did when the Rangers first acquired him, and that's
yeah,
small
they should
shit.
have done this. They should have done this in October when Sammy Blais on opening night comes back from injury. That's when you send him down on a conditioning loan. Of course, I know the player has to agree to it and this and that, blah blah blah. But I'm just shocked that it took this long because going down to the AHL for 2 weeks, which should almost be up by the way, because it's max 2 weeks on a conditioning loan. Going down to the AHL helps him get into a groove. We saw it with Julien Gauthier. Julien Gauthier, of course, went after clearing waivers, but still, Gauthier went down to the AHL. You face lesser opposition. You get into a groove. You get to use the moves that may not work because you're a little too slow in the NHL, but you get to refine the way you play going up against lesser competition. And Sammy Blais needed this. And I'm glad that Sammy Blais finally gets to do this. Pavel Buchnevich in 2016, same thing. Pavel Buchnevich spent 2 weeks in Hartford on a conditioning loan after suffering a couple of back injuries. I think he had back spasms several times. And he went to Hartford. And when you don't face the same physical opposition, it's easier to get into a groove. So when Sammy Blais comes back, I hope he plays. I hope he scores because that's what the Rangers need. We'll still never get out of it what we gave up in Buchnevich, but at least if he can become a serviceable fourth liner, at least it's something. That's what the Rangers need. So this is a great move. With Cooley, the way he played, he deserves another game. The Rangers are not allowing him to play in the AHL All-Star game.
Which means that they want to make sure he's healthy and be ready for the Rangers.
3 years ago, they did the same with Igor Shesterkin, of course, who was on the team by the time.
And I had the privilege of seeing Igor with the Wolfpack. That's something that I'll always be happy that I got to do. Yeah, because
I saw him play for the Russian national team and for his Russian team in the KHL, which I'll always cherish. I saw him play in an outdoor game for SKA.
That's awesome. Yeah.
Yeah. But yeah, Shesterkin now finally gets to have his first All-Star game in North America, his third All-Star game overall, because he played in 2 All-Star games in the KHL, of course. And Cooley, look, they want to keep him healthy. I get it, but yeah, do you really want to go overboard with protecting your players? Players get injured all the time doing menial tasks that have nothing to do with the sport they play. This happened like 2002. I discussed this on Hockey's Future, like HF boards, like the forum.
Uh-huh.
Back in 2002, there was a French defenseman who was set to make a transfer to Man United, and he he injured his knee while walking his dog, and that ruined the transfer. Should he not be walking his dog? Sometimes injuries just happen.
That's
You
so
cannot bubble wrap
so
players.
bizarre too.
Yeah, you cannot bubble wrap players to the point where they will never get injured.
You have to live a life at the end of the day. You just gotta
Yeah,
just have to be a little bit more cautious than the average individual.
That was Julian Escudé, for listeners who are wondering who it was.
Okay.
Santiago Canizares, a Spanish goalkeeper, same summer, missed the FIFA World Cup because he dropped a bottle of cologne and one of the glass shards cut a tendon in his foot. He was in the bathroom getting ready for his day. Players get injured all the time doing menial things.
So random.
So, do you really? I think it kind of sucks to take Will Cooley out of the AHL All-Star game, but I'm pretty sure he's okay with it being in the NHL and getting a bigger payday. So.
Yeah, I'm gonna go on a limb and say that he probably appreciates and is prioritizing the NHL more than an AHL All-Star game.
Yes,
could be wrong, but I think I'm in favor of
speaking of the All-Star game, last thing I'll say about the All-Star game though, Bo Horvat traded to the New York Islanders ahead of the All-Star game.
Good move for them as long as they can re-sign him.
Here's a question for you though. Can you name any other player that was traded right before the All-Star game and then that they were supposed to represent?
Ooh, are you asking me this question because it's Rangers related?
No, well, one of them is.
Could you tell me how soon these were?
2016 is the most recent.
And was that a Ranger?
No, it was a former Ranger though.
Position? We gotta narrow it down.
I think this guy played defenseman and forward.
Someone said in the chat, so I'm cheating. But yes, John Scott.
John Scott, yeah. He was traded from, I think, the Coyotes to the Canadiens, but he still represented the Pacific Division.
Yes, that was
great. Some other examples, Sandis Ozolinsh in 2003, Bob Kudelski in 1990, and then Bernie Nichols in Bob Gudelski in 1994, and then Bernie Nichols in 1990.
Yeah, shout out to AZ in the chat in the live stream. He said Bernie Nichols.
Yeah, Nichols was traded from the Oilers to the Rangers, like right before the All-Star game.
Interesting.
So these things don't happen very often, but when it does happen, it triggers like my brain. I go, "Oh, I want to research this now." And I remember when it happened. Our last day in Seattle, and Catherine's like, "What are you doing?" I'm just researching something. And she, what are you looking up? And I go, well, Horvat was just traded. And she goes, are you looking up players that were just traded before the All-Star game? I'm like, yes. I don't know. It's just I like figuring it out and then sharing it. It's stuff like that keeps me going, I guess.
Yeah, no, I like that. Also, shout out everyone here in the live stream. Appreciate you guys. Shout out to my boy Darren, a great supporter of mine, especially on the Mets channel. Appreciate you being here, and everyone else, as always, guys, for in the live stream. But now, Steven, let's get into the next couple games for the Rangers, because we probably won't talk again for a little bit, hoping that we can try to get an episode in by the 14th, if not 16th, only because
we're going to meet up on Valentine's Day.
I'm good. Maybe. Here's the thing, though. It's very tricky. Okay, listen to this. So
if we record on Valentine's Day, we have to talk about the players we love.
So here's the issue for me, at least. My schedule is absolutely swamped. So next weekend, I'm gonna be out of town for like the majority of that time. Okay, so then we get to the Tuesday. That Tuesday is not only my yearly anniversary with my girlfriend, it's also actually my mother's birthday. The following day, the 15th, Steven, that's my father's birthday.
Wait. Your mother's birthday is on Valentine's Day.
Yes.
And you got together with your girlfriend on Valentine's Day.
Yes.
Man, you love that day, don't you?
No, I actually despise it because there's too many things at once. Yeah, my girlfriend and I always joke, be like, we never expected to be together this long from when we started. So
Oh,
it's
that's
like,
that's that's nice to hear, right?
yeah, no, but like in all seriousness, we didn't think that this would be an issue, but like now it is. So we celebrated different times, you know what I mean? Like different days of the week.
Yeah.
Then the following day is my father's birthday. My parents are a year apart, but are the 14th and the 15th of February. How bizarre is that?
Jesus,
Yeah.
Jesus.
I know. So, anyways, a lot of things are coming up over the next week, but the goals, hopefully, we'll talk after the next 4 games to the Rangers. And during that span, they're home on Monday against Calgary. Then they have Vancouver on the 8th, led by Mr. Tocchet, as they did so well with their coaching transition. Couldn't have done it better.
Can we talk about the Canucks quickly and
It's,
how the fans are completely mocking their organization and backing Bruce Boudreau, who
yeah,
was fired, who should
Bruce,
not
there
have
it
been
is.
fired. Bruce, there it is. That's one of the best chants I've ever heard in hockey, mostly because 9 out of 10 chants are just let's go team name. But yeah, Bruce, there it is. That's one of my favorites.
Yep. So we got that game on the 8th, then the 10th at home against the Kraken. And it's a back-to-back. They head to Carolina right after that to face the Hurricanes. So, Steven, you were the winner of our previous prediction, so I'll let you go ahead again of the next 4 games.
Again, I like how you say again.
Yeah. I'm hoping this is the final time for a bit, Steven. I'm annoyed. For those that aren't aware, off air when I was talking with Steven, as bothered as I was with that Rangers loss to the Toronto Maple Leafs in overtime, a part of me was equally, if not more, bothered by the fact that I knew that Steven had won the prediction for another week by securing that overtime loss. So it is what it is. Steven, go ahead. What do you got for these 4 games? Wins, losses, goals as a tiebreaker.
Let's see. The Rangers always struggle with the Flames. That's the one that's bugging me. I think we're gonna beat the Canucks. We're gonna beat the Kraken, even though they're a good team. Hurricanes are gonna be tricky. I'm gonna go 2-1-1. And the goals prediction, it's 4 games. I'm gonna go with 13.
Okay. All right. For me, I'm gonna go with 1, 2, 3, 4. Do I want to be biased and say 3-1, or do I want to be what I think has more potential at 2-2? Just because you never know how a team's gonna look after having like a week off. Shoot. I'm gonna go 2-2, only
Mhm.
because of the fact that I don't know how they're going to look out the jump here, post All-Star break. Do I think that they can win all those games? Absolutely. But I'm just gonna be very conservative here and go 2-2. For
I mean,
goals,
it's not just the All-Star break we're dealing with, right? I think the Rangers had a bye week.
oh, that's true. Yes. Yes, that's a good point as well. Either way, 2 and
Because
2.
there have been NHL games going on until last night, I think.
Have oh yeah. I think you're right. Yeah,
And the Rangers,
I forgot that teams get specific bye weeks now. That kicked in a couple
yeah,
years ago, and I
yeah.
always forget about it. Okay. So yeah. All right. So 2-2 is still my prediction. And for goals, if they're going 2-2, then I'm gonna go with the under of 13.
Okay.
So on average, they could still get 3 goals per game there.
Okay. So
So we'll see.
let me send this to you then. I went with 2-1-1 and 12 goals, and you go with 2-2-0 and 13 goals.
Yep.
Cool. All right. One thing I still want to touch on. I forgot about it about the All-Star game quickly. They got a second player because there was an injury, but it's kind of shitty that the Florida Panthers initially only had one player for an All-Star game that they're hosting.
Yeah, I agree with that. You know, normally they gas it up. Like, let me put it this way: if we were even
If
in
the Rangers were hosting the All-Star game,
no, but
there would be
Rangers
you want to see
Rangers
more
are
than
a
one
better
player.
team. Rangers are a better team, right? And they have more star players. But even then, like, I feel like if this was in like Arizona, there would be at minimum like 2 Coyotes, like a Clayton
Yeah.
Keller and a Nick Schmaltz or something, right? Like, it's absurd. You're right. The fact that only Matthew Tkachuk, who's the new guy on the block, as the lone guy. I'm sorry. I'm pretty sure Alexander Barkov is one of the best centers in the game. Let's just
Yeah.
brush him under the rug. Okay, cool. Got it. Like, why wouldn't you at minimum bring him into this? That's kind of insane to me.
Yeah. And then the other thing that pisses me off, Matty Beniers, who was a representative for the Seattle Kraken, gets injured because Tyler Myers, who should have been suspended for a couple of months before that, Tyler Myers has a blindside hit on him, ends up with a concussion, now misses the All-Star game. The NHL replaces him with Chandler Stevenson of the Vegas Golden Knights. So on the one hand, the NHL goes, every team needs to be represented, and then now there's no one from the Kraken.
Oh,
their latest expansion team, who's going to host the Winter Classic a year from now.
Yeah, not great with marketing.
Well, listen, we can do an entire 2-hour episode about how shit the NHL is at marketing their own product.
Baseball is too. Trust me. We don't need to get on that tangent. Okay. So talked about.
Look, I understand why Tkachuk was the choice for the Florida Panthers.
No, as do I, but it should have been more than him, is the point.
Yes.
Yeah.
They should have had at least 3 players. The team that hosts the All-Star game should have at least 3 players.
Yeah. And the
last time the Rangers hosted was 1994. It was Leach, Messier, Richter, and Graves. And you know what? It should have been Zubov instead of Graves.
You could argue that for sure.
I know that's a controversial take, maybe, but the 4th player to represent the Rangers in the All-Star game that season should have been Zubov, not Graves.
I mean, that was also Gravy's 50-goal a year, though, wasn't it?
I know. Zubov led the team in points as a defenseman, though.
Yeah. I mean, Zubov he was the one that shouldn't have been cut loose too early. But
Zubov, as a defenseman, if I remember correctly, had 87 points or 89.
Yeah, he was a beast.
Hold on. I'm going to look it up. I want to get this right now.
Hold
on. I just clicked on the wrong Zubov. Ilya Zubov.
While you look that up.
I got it here. 89 points. 89 as a defenseman.
Insane. So
89 points. Messier at 84. Graves and Leach at 79.
Wow. Okay. So staying on the topic of high numbers, this is episode 71 of Rangers Review, Steven. So do you know the jersey history of 71 for the Rangers?
Ooh, for 71. Let me guess. I'm going to ask you, of course. There's 2 players. You should be able to get both because one of them is very recent. And the other one is responsible for one of the most iconic moments when you first started following this team.
Ooh.
One is a goalie and one is a winger.
Iconic moments. So we're talking 2012.
Yep. In Philadelphia on New Year's.
Mike Rupp.
There you go. The Yager salute by Mike Rupp in the Winter Classic. There you go.
Okay. Goalie now. Goalie was recent. How recent?
Last season. 2021, 2022.
How many games did he play for the Rangers? Like 1 or 2?
Let me look it up actually.
This is 1 game. What? 1 game?
1 game for the Rangers.
Was that one game?
Sorry, no. 1 game last season. He had 10 in total for the Rangers. 903 save percentage.
Oh, if it was 10 in total, it's Keith Kincaid.
Yes.
Yeah. Because when you said 1, I was thinking, is this Adam Huska? Like, that was the first thing.
Oh, no. Huska. What number was Huska? 32?
I remember he played against Colorado and just got absolutely cooked, unfortunately.
Yeah, that Colorado game was great until the second period started.
Yeah.
Yeah, let me see actually. that Colorado game. Lundqvist scored his first ever NHL goal in that game. Ended up in an 8-1 or sorry 7-3 loss. Lundqvist on the power play gave the Rangers a 2-1 lead at the end of the first, and then they conceded 5 straight goals in the second period. But anyway, that's Huska. Do you remember the only game that Kincaid played last season for the Rangers?
Oh, he got the win with the Rangers.
It was a win. And Kakko scored a power play goal because Panarin was out.
Oh. Was the team that the Rangers faced in the Metro?
Nope.
Okay.
Not even in the East.
Oh. Oh, boy. Oh, boy. Pacific?
I don't know. What division are they in today? Because it changed recently. They're in the Central now.
Central. Who the hell's in the Central? I'm blanking so hard right now. NHL. I just need to refresh my memory.
They're the team that has the nicest jerseys, the nicest reverse retro jerseys.
Right now?
Their 2020 is my all-time favorite reverse retro.
Okay.
The Rangers were trailing 2-1 with 5 minutes to go in the third period.
If it's your all-time favorite reverse retro, was it the Coyotes?
Yes, Coyotes. There you go.
Yeah, because the only reason why I said that is because they're my favorite too. Those purple
ones
are
beautiful. The purple reverse retro.
Okay, that's cool.
If I can ever get my hands on one, look, I don't really collect jerseys that have nothing to do with the Rangers. I have a Tim Stützle Adler Mannheim jersey because I saw him play with the Adler Mannheim in Vienna.
Okay.
And I have a Miro Heiskanen Dallas Stars jersey, the black and neon green one, because I love that jersey. But I would probably go for a Coyotes reverse retro 1.0 jersey at some point.
Okay. Yeah, I would too. I would.
Anyway, let's do some questions before we get into prospects.
We do. I mean, there isn't really much that needs to be harped on with the prospects right now, is there? If it's like a quick hitter, why don't you go through quick? But before we do, just want Mr. Sensei asked a quick question. How many NHL arenas have you guys been to? Steven's funny enough, Steven, the schmuck who lives literally across the pond in a different country, has been to more arenas than I have. I've been to the Rangers at MSG. I've been to the Capitals at their arena, and I've been to the Flyers at Wells Fargo. I've not been to any more arenas than that. But that's something that literally can change kind of whenever. It's just a matter of when. Like, I want to go to Prudential Center when the Rangers play the Devils. I definitely want to go to the Islanders arena when the Rangers play, just because I'm curious how many Ranger fans will be in there too. Like, do Ranger fans kind of fill up like half that place, or do the Islanders actually do pretty well?
More than half.
More than half, yeah. So it will still feel like a home game pretty much.
I remember years ago they had like this thing at a Rangers. It wasn't even a Rangers game at the Coliseum, but they had this thing where if people dressed up in a Santa suit, then they would get in for free and they could be on the ice during.
And it was a brawl because there were Ranger fans.
There were a couple of Ranger fans that went to the game. It wasn't even a Rangers game.
Yeah. And you know what happened when the new Islanders stadium was just being built? The foundation, a construction worker put a Ranger jersey under there.
Well, that explains like the 10+ losing streak when they first started playing them.
Yes, he cursed them, which is hilarious.
Yeah. And I've been to UBS Arena for an Islanders Sharks game, and the Sharks won in overtime. It was amazing.
I'm pretty sure someone also put a Red Sox jersey like buried somewhere in the Yankee Stadium for a while. I think they put like a Big Papi jersey there, and then it was found after like a long time. Like, fans are creative as shit. If there's one thing that I will say is funny, it's no better way to like kind of put on your own hex than putting a jersey somewhere stuffed away in the opposing arena.
2002, the Winter Olympics, a Canadian construction worker, I think, put like a Canadian loonie under center ice for the gold medal game.
Really? I didn't know that. That's wild.
But yeah, so you've been to 3 NHL arenas then?
Correct.
All right. Let me see. Let me start in the West. I've been to Vancouver, But I have to say, Vancouver was for the NHL draft and the World Juniors, not an NHL game, but still, Vancouver, which is Rogers Arena or Rogers, I don't know, Rogers Center, Rogers Arena. Anyway, Seattle, Climate Pledge. I've been to Vegas, the T-Mobile Center, Arizona, the Gila River Arena before they moved to their current one. The Dallas Stars American Airlines Center, which is the NHL draft. I have a T-shirt of the with a picture of the arena saying "My AA Center serves booze," which is hilarious. So that's what Vancouver, Seattle, Arizona, Vegas, Dallas, Minnesota, St. Louis, Tampa, Nashville, Philly, New Jersey, Rangers, Buffalo, Islanders. So that's 14. Calgary, I've been to the Saddle Dome, so that's 15. 16 if you include Citi Field for the Winter Classic.
I'm not, but yeah. So we'll go with 15.
15 then. 15.
Yeah.
So I'm almost halfway. Almost.
Yeah, that's great. That's wild. And again, I'm hoping that I can get to those type of numbers in the next couple of years. That'd be great. So
sorry, I forgot Columbus. 16.
16. Okay. Fair enough.
Sorry,
Very
I
nice.
only added it like 2 weeks ago. So pardon the exclusion there.
This is a question that I want to make sure is answered because it goes in hand with what the majority of the questions of today's show have been. Because as we're getting closer and closer to the trade deadline, naturally people want to know, according to Mikey D, what's your guys' dream deadline scenario? Big names like Meyer and Kane, or lower tier guys like Mott, Barbashev, Domi. How can we afford Meyer? Because all reporting is that it's their number one target. Well, they can. We talked about this last episode, Mikey, but they can afford Timo right now. They just won't be able to re-sign him. It's as simple as that. They'll have to let him.
The problem with Timo Meyer signed his contract before the MOU that was signed in 2020. Now, I'm getting a bit technical here, but there's the CBA, the collective bargaining agreement that was signed in 2012. And then in 2020, in the middle of the pandemic, instead of going for a new CBA, they decided to sign an MOU, a memorandum of understanding, which I guess you would compare to an amendment on certain rules. And one of the rules that changed is how the qualifying offer is calculated. So previously, the qualifying offer would be the same as the base salary in the final year of a contract. Now it's still the same, with the exception that the qualifying offer cannot be more than 120% or 125% of the AAV, the cap hit, the annual average value. But Meyer signed his before the MOU, and with his base salary being 10 million in this season, that means his qualifying offer is 10 million. So if a team wants to retain him, they have to give him a qualifying offer, a 1-year contract for 10 million. If he signs that, he's on the books for 10 million for 1 year. And if I'm Timo Meyer, I'm signing that because it's 1 year, 10 million. If you don't give a player a qualifying offer, even though the player is a restricted free agent, he becomes an unrestricted free agent. So Timo Meyer, in essence, is, for a team that is up against the cap, Timo Meyer is an unrestricted free agent like Patrick Kane is or Vladimir Tarasenko is. So if the Rangers acquire him, he will be a rental. Yep. There's no way the Rangers can afford to even give him his qualifying offer.
Exactly. And that's why Timo, is he possible? Yes. But do we expect Drury to give up significant assets for a guy that's going to be strictly rental? I don't think we can expect that.
Because the San Jose Sharks are looking for a return that pays for Timo Meyer being under control.
Yep.
So you're looking at a team
they're
like
looking for the equivalent of probably like a Lafreniere and like a first. Protect the first.
A rental usually goes for a first-round pick and a prospect. A player that's still under contract goes for a lot more than that. You could add a second-round pick, a second prospect, maybe a roster player. That's the type of return that the San Jose Sharks are looking for. And a team like the New Jersey Devils have an easier time trying to extend a guy like Timo Meyer than the Rangers would. The Rangers have 3.1 million, if I remember correctly, in cap penalties coming off the books. But you need to sign Keandre Miller. You need to sign Philip Hedl. You need to sign Alexi Lafreniere. They're all restricted free agents. The Rangers just don't have the cap space for that kind of commitment. And that means that Timo Meier becomes a restricted free agent. Unrestricted free agent if he goes to the Rangers. I don't see it happening.
So
what I want to happen,
yeah, what do you want to happen?
What I think will happen is probably closer to what we saw last year. The Rangers gave up a 4th-round pick for Frank Vetrano, a 3rd-round pick for Justin Brown, a 4th-round pick for Tyler Mott, and then a conditional second, and Morgan Barron for Andrew Copp. Now, that conditional second turned into a first when we made it to the Eastern Conference Final. But those are the type of trades you'd be looking at. You're looking at a guy who rounds out your team, not that top, like the upper echelon player like Patrick Kane. I don't think the Rangers are going to end up with a guy like Patrick Kane or Tarasenko. You're going to look at a guy like, I know he's injured now, and there's some discussion about how healthy he will be at the end of the season. But Gustav Nyquist, who plays for, what does he play for now? The Columbus Blue Jackets?
Yeah, he's been injury prone though.
Yeah, he's injury prone, but those are the type of rentals that the Rangers should be looking at. Maybe some 4th-line help in Nick Bjugstad of the Arizona Coyotes.
I would, you know who I would rather want if we're going to get 4th-line help?
Tyler Mott.
Yeah, he just became available. Give
Tyler
me the Mott
reunion
every day of the week.
Look, I would trade a 4th-round pick every year at the deadline for Tyler Mott.
Yeah, he's just one of those guys. If that were to happen, this would be Kelly Johnson 2.0 for my Mets fans out there that know. Back-to-back years, the New York Mets around the trade deadline acquired veteran hitter and infielder and Kelly Johnson. Was he the best thing in the world? No, but he just gave you the right amount of production for what you were looking for from a bench bat that wasn't playing every day. You know, just a more of a depth role, if you will, which is the equivalent to Tyler Mott. So not only him, but for me at least, this is my dream scenario. I want the Rangers to get Jacob Megna from the Sharks. I saw AZ in the chat comment this, and I agree with him.
We had his brother already a couple of years ago.
Yeah, and Jason was shit. We tried him on the first line like everyone else. It didn't get anywhere. However,
didn't he have like 2 assists in his first game or something?
Yeah, because he was playing alongside Nash, pretty sure. That's why. Since then, however, you look at Jacob Megna, he's kind of really found something in his career with the David Quinn ran San Jose Sharks, and he has made defenders around him better. I just saw a post about him over this past week on his numbers. Really, really solid depth defenseman. Big, sizable defenseman, too, like a Tornorti, like a Harper, but is far superior defensively than what Harper currently is. So he's not a 7th defenseman. He's perfect to pair on that bottom pair for the Rangers. And I know for a fact that if the Rangers acquired him, he would quickly become a Golan favorite with the size and the ability that he brings with his defensive game. So that's what I'm appealed with there. Offensively, Tyler Mott, get him back on the 4th line. And Magna is only a $2.25 million cap hit, according to AZ in the chat. So that's good too. And then if the Rangers can swing this trade, I know a lot of people are against it, but I'm sorry, I'm not. And there's a couple reasons why. I want Patrick Kane. We've been talking about it for half a decade now. I know his advanced numbers look like absolute dog shit this season. I'm fully aware of that, but I still want him on this team because look at what Kane is playing with on a horrendous Chicago Blackhawks team that has nothing to win for. Kane, at this point in his career, I know for a fact if he is traded to a Stanley Cup contending caliber team, we'll get those juices flowing again. And I can only imagine the type of production that he would be able to get back to come playoff time if he was playing alongside his former teammate and good friend, and Artemi Panarin. So for anyone out there that's saying that, oh my goodness, Patrick Kane, why would you want him? He's absolutely cooked. You're not paying attention. The Patrick Kane that you see on the Blackhawks right now is not the equal equivalent to what he would be on a contending team. What he would be on a contending team would be an absolute plus. I mean, think of the Phil Kessels of the world as an example too. Like, these are guys, these are veterans that if you bring them in, only bring positives to this team. Is he going to be defensive liability? Absolutely. But let's not sit here and act like every Rangers winner is an absolute stud from the defensive front, okay? You bring in Kane, you bring more offense to this power, you bring more depth, and you scare more of the opposing teams. I apologize for the little rant I'm going on right now, but the Stars have aligned for so long. Now's the time to get him. I know we're not going to keep him after this year. Just say, fuck it, go get him. It shouldn't cost you too much. Should be still in that realm of possibility without giving up the entire farm for the Rangers. All right, Steven, now respond to me and tell me everything that I said was wrong.
Kane is not even the player on the Blackhawks I would target.
You would target Max Domi?
Yes. Because his price will be lower, and Max Domi has more points than Patrick Kane. I know it's only one more point, but look, I think Max Domi is just a better fit for this team. Patrick Kane...
He could be. Again, I'm being a spoiled brat that want Kane on the Rangers his entire career.
Okay, so do you think Kane's going to get power play time on the Rangers? And by power play time, I mean the first unit.
Why in God's name wouldn't he? That's literally like what he's known for.
Okay, so who are you taking off the power play then?
All right, who's in right wing for the Rangers on power play? Unless you move things around.
Okay. Convince me that Kane's going to get top power play time on the Rangers.
If it would not be a detriment, I would be in favor of Kane on power play 1 over Panarin and putting Panarin.
You're going to take Panarin off the first power play unit.
No, I'm not, because Panarin's still such a good setup guy.
All right, so
I'm trying to justify it by saying how Kane has that one-timer ability in the right dot, which I personally like as a hockey fan. But Panarin is also the guy that's always setting up these 1-Ts for Zibanejad in the left dot. So it's kind of you're damned if you do, you're damned if you don't.
So you would put Kane on a power play instead of Zibanejad then?
No, you can't, because Mika's slot in there.
Who's coming off the power play?
Yeah, no, you kind of have me in a little bit of a pickle right now.
Because and I'm gonna
wait. Actually, I mean, if the Rangers really want to get front loaded, you could have it where you have Mika as the center there, and then you have Panarin in the left dot and Kane in the right. But I know they're not going to do that.
Trocheck, who has the only face-off percentage over 50% on the team, off power play 1.
No, again, that's what I'm saying. In hindsight, it doesn't look like it would be a smart idea.
So then it's going to be Kreider. Who's going to be the net front presence if Kreider comes off the power play?
No.
Okay, so is Kane not getting power play? Is Kane not getting power play 1 time then?
He wouldn't. He would be on power play 2, and I'm okay with that as long as the Rangers know how. As long as Gallant properly balances it, because I think if you put Kane on power play 2. Wouldn't that entice Gallant more to want to play that second unit?
You and I both know Gallant, right?
Yes, but we all know that Gallant does like his vets.
Because
I'm pretty sure that he would like Patrick Kane.
Here's my point. Patrick Kane and Alexis Lafreniere are tied in points at even strength this season.
Look at the rosters, though, Steven. You can't compare them.
Okay. Kane doesn't even lead his own team in scoring.
No, I know.
Okay. Look, I'm not against Patrick Kane. I'm just against Patrick Kane for the price that's being mentioned in the media.
I agree with that. I'm against Kane at a premium. I'm against Kane at a Sather trade value, if you will. Right?
I will give up a first and a conditional second at most. And the condition for that second is it becomes a first if we make it to the Stanley Cup final.
And who's paying more than that for him right now, though?
I don't know. Because that's the other thing. $10.5 million. That's not a cap hit a lot of teams can afford.
And the Rangers would only be able to do this if they only get 50% of that.
And this is why I'm kind of hoping Drury does what he did last season. Get some guys that balance your team. There's one guy that I've been a fan of ever since he got to the league, and look, this is probably a name that we're never going to talk about as a Ranger ever, but Marcus Johansson.
Yeah, he's on the Caps.
He played for the Caps for about a decade. I think he was traded to the New Jersey Devils at
Yeah, he
some
was on the
point.
Devils, Bruins,
The Kraken got him in the
Kraken.
expansion draft, and now he's back with Washington. He's half a point per game. This is a guy that can play anywhere. He can play center, he can play left wing, he can play right wing. That's the type of player for like a second round pick that I would target over going for the big fish at the trade deadline and overpaying. You know the last time a team actually won the Stanley Cup while getting the biggest player at the deadline?
Probably a long time, honestly.
The LA Kings with Gaborik in 2012.
And that
Sorry,
was
in 2014.
that was the best acquisition possible.
Yeah,
That,
2014 Gaborik to the LA Kings. That is, to my knowledge at least, the last time the Stanley Cup winning team netted the biggest player at the deadline.
See, I feel if the Rangers got Domi, it would kind of give me Frank Vetrano vibes a little bit. He has some speed in his game. Can play center.
You
Can
get him
play the
for a
lane.
third or fourth round pick.
I remember when Ranger fans used to hate him too. I've always been a Domi fan. I remember the little feuds he would have with Lemieux back in the day too.
Yeah, but it's look, it's the same thing with Burakovsky. I hated Burakovsky when he played for the Caps because he always killed us.
Yeah, I always was a Burakovsky fan though.
I would love to see him in a Rangers jersey because that's what he does. And Max Domi, the only objection I have to Max Domi becoming a Ranger is that the locker room is going to be a bit awkward because Barclay Goodrow is married to Max Domi's ex-girlfriend.
Really? Why are we tossing these wives around like that? What's going on? Oh, that reminds me of like how Garrett Cole for the Yankees is married to Brandon Crawford, who's a longtime shortstop for the San Francisco Giants.
By the way, Cole's first name always cracks me up because it's a very old-fashioned name in the Netherlands.
Garrett, especially how it's spelled.
I'm not. Yeah, no, that spelling. It's a Dutch name, but it's a Dutch name my grandpa would have, like his generation. There are no people under 50 that have that name in the Netherlands. Anyway, some other examples that the Rangers could go after at the deadline. Sonny Milano.
I'm a big fan of Sonny. I do not know how he's doing this year, however.
Ivan Barbashev, the Rangers drafted his younger brother.
Yeah, Barbashev I'm not opposed to. He's nice for that bottom six.
I already mentioned Nick Bjugstad.
Who's Milano on right now?
The Capitals. Because somehow the Ducks let him go. And the Calgary Flames had him on a PTO. The Flames had him on a PTO and I didn't sign him.
Yeah, I don't know why the Ducks let him go. I've heard he's had some locker room issues. Flames, I think, let him go for a vax reason. I could be wrong. But let's see. Milano.
No, the big guy I'd go if I go after a big guy, I go after Tarasenko before I go after Kane because the price will be lower. If he's available, the other guy that intrigues me is if the Penguins are out of the playoff spot. And if they are sellers at the deadline, Jason Zucker.
Yeah, I mean, if they're sellers, but I don't think they're going to be out of the playoff spot.
Probably not.
No. And the Blues are the interesting team to watch, though.
Yeah, the guy that's been linked to the Rangers for like a decade because he used to be a Rangers fan when he was a kid, James Van Riemsdyk. I'm just waiting for the moment he's getting linked to the Rangers.
Yeah, I don't need that. Personally.
No, I mean we're not talking about what we need. We're talking about what if Drury is going after like small time players, like players that are more like depth players.
Yeah,
Oskar Sundqvist of the Detroit Red Wings.
Yeah,
that's the type of player that you throw a third round pick at and hope that it solidifies your bottom six. Because if the Rangers have one problem, it's their even strength scoring. And there are some players that are interesting, that could help with that. Last season, I was really hoping we'd go after some Canes players like Adrian Kempe and Rasmus Kupari. I don't see that happening anytime soon, but those are the type of players that drive the play, that they play a possession game. They transition the puck from your own zone into the offensive zone.
Yep.
That's why Frank Vetrano and Andrew Kopp were such good fits.
Yeah, they were
That's why
both.
Tyler Mott
They
on
were
the
both.
penalty kill. That's why Tyler Mott on a penalty kill was such a good fit because he brought something we didn't have yet.
Everyone that was acquired by the Rangers last year fitted a role for the Rangers that they needed, and they fitted it as good as you could ask, really. It just made the Rangers unbelievably deep. And to your point, I do believe that Drury will be looking at things in a similar fashion on adding that similar depth for this year's trade deadline. What day is the trade deadline again?
Let me check that for you.
And then we'll wrap up the show because I do have to get out of here.
Okay. Trade deadline. Come on, it should be an easy result here, right? Jesus, come on. NHL. I looked at. Sorry. Google auto-filled it to NHL trade rumors. March 3rd. So we're 1 month away. Friday, March 3rd, 3 p.m. Eastern.
March 3rd, 3 p.m. Eastern. Okay.
Yeah,
exactly.
It's a Friday. So I'll probably 3 p.m. It's 8 p.m. So I'll probably have some beers and just watch it on TV.
As you should. Yeah, I'll be locked in following along too. But, Steven, with that being said, I do have to get out of here. But before I do you have any final remarks on today's episode?
Just some minor prospect updates.
Go ahead.
Brennan Othman last night scored a hat trick for the Peterborough Petes.
Awesome.
In a 5-3 win. The opposing goalie was the second star of the game because I think he made 64 saves on 69 shots. Or on 68.
Wow.
Altman now has 22 points in 19 games for the Peterborough Petes after having 24 in 16 for the Flint Firebirds. He's on pace for 75 in 51 games. Now, he had a bit of a slow start with the Peterborough Petes, but as a Ranger fan, that shouldn't be anything new. Martin St. Louis had 3 points in his first 14 games as a Ranger. But the guy that I want to mention here is Bryce McConnell-Barker.
Just like every week.
Also plays in the OHL. Look, this guy has really, really upped his game this season. Plays for the Sioux Greyhounds last season, had a very defensive role, like a third-line shutdown center. But this season, he captains the team, 56 points in 46 games, 26 goals, 30 assists. He's probably not going to play in the World Juniors for Team Canada, but this is a guy that could grow into that third-line center role that you would put out there for a defensive zone faceoff.
Yeah,
almost like a Vinny Trocheck light. And the other guy I wanted to mention here, you brought him up earlier, Adam Sikora. Mm-hmm. Adam Sikora is going to stay in Slovakia for the remainder of the season. There was some rumors that he was going to the WHL, but the Rangers prefer him to play against professional players in Slovakia. And with his team, they won the Continental Cup, which is the second tier of European hockey. So for people that follow soccer, it's like the Europa League. There's the Champions Hockey League with the top teams, and then the Continental League is the second tier. So yeah, he got a nice little medal. And then my dark horse for getting an ELC is Jaroslav Chmelars, who plays for the Providence Friars and won silver at the World Juniors with Czechia. 5th round pick in 2021. Really turned some heads the last 6 months. So if you get a chance to watch the Providence Friars, Brett Berard's on that team, but keep an eye out for number 28 on that team as well.
Duly noted. Awesome, Steven. Thank you so much for that prospect update. I know that we talked about Sikora last episode too, and I agree with the Rangers there on making sure that he's facing men at this point in his career. I'm still very excited for him. I love the fact that he was signed to an ELC, like the youngest in Rangers history to do so, which is a big deal considering it wasn't even a first-round draft pick. But with that being said, guys, that's going to wrap up episode 71 of Rangers Review. A little bit long form with this one, but we'll make sure that things are a little bit more structured next time. Again, we're during the All-Star break right now, and the Rangers having their bye week, so we're just kind of talking about whatever's popping in our mind that is hockey and Rangers related. So I hope you guys enjoyed. If you did, make sure to smash that like and subscribe on here on YouTube and wherever you get your podcasts. Make sure to rate, review, listen. As always, thank you guys all so much. This is me, Wardy, signing out. That is Stopway Steven. As always, guys, let's go Rangers.
Let's go Rangers.